Hi guys, it's a quick video because the sun has just crossed over the south node and I want to show you here. So if you can see that if you can see the south node here in Leo, it's at the 29th degree and you've got the sun here. And what's just happened is if I go back by, let's see, this is August the 22nd and it's 23:12 p.m. on this chart. So I'm going to go back by minutes, maybe an hour would be good. There you go. So within the last hour, and if I go minutes, so I can tell you the exact minute, at 22:03 p.m. in the UK, which would have been if you're in California, it's 8 hours behind. And then if you're in America, New York, USA, then it's 5 hours behind. So I got really sad for about 2 hours as that was happening, which was really interesting. I thought, what's going on with me? And I thought I had to look at the chart and I could see that this configuration was happening. But the beautiful thing you can see here is that this sun is and the south node are trine to Chiron, which is retrograde. And Chiron is where we can be revitalized through, traumas of our past that we're becoming and we're releasing stuff as well and stepping into something new. So that link, I think, to Chiron in Taurus makes this an interesting transit. So the sun represents, if we think about what the sun represents, and it's in Leo, it's represents our consciousness and it illuminates and brings something into awareness. And the south node is often associated with the past, and it's not just simply the past in terms of previous lives, which I'm 50-50 on anyway, although some people believe in them fully. I'm not sure, but maybe that's because I'm a Gemini and I've got two sides to my thinking, duality going on. But the past that lives within us today, so the past could be, like 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and the familiar patterns, identities, coping mechanisms, and ways of being that have become second nature. So a lot of what becomes second nature is often starts in our childhood. The foods we eat, the religions we believe in, if we believe in that, and just the way we make money, all of these different things are part of our identity based on our upbringing and our peers and other things. So we've also got the patterns that we have developed, and sometimes we get shaken out of them, but sometimes we have to shake ourselves out of them if they're no longer useful. And things are changing and have been very intense for quite a long time, as we know. So when the sun crosses the south node, it's shining a light, which it's done. So when it does that, it shines a light on something we've been carrying for a long time. And so it would be like opening the doors to an old attic and finding things that we forgot that were there. So we may have been feeling that today as this is going on. And the sun doesn't create anything particularly. In this configuration, it's revealing what is already present. And because this conjunction takes place within Leo, the focus is on identity. So it's like the identity, how we shine or how we would wish to shine, and who have I believed myself to be. So I think I was going through a bit of that. I was thinking, because earlier today, actually, I'm quite tidy, even with paperwork. And something else I did today, I just shredded a load of old documents by hand. I sort of tore bits of paper up. I had to clear out of something. I just thought, I don't need that anymore. It's not part of what I need around me. Anyway, that's just one thing. And because of this conjunction taking place in Leo, we've got the focus on our identity, who I've believed myself to be, what role have I been playing. So we may have been playing roles that have been, that really are introjects, things we picked up on. That it's not roles we don't really want anymore. And also what maybe we imagine of ourselves and what we become attached to as well. and where we have sought recognition, approval, or a validation from others. And for some of us, this may be a creative identity. For others, it could be the identity of where we've been the helper, the rescuer, the achiever, the strong one, a caretaker, or a person who always has it together. And we may have that. And when you see this configuration of the South Node Chiron connection, South Node Sun Chiron here, it's something that's supportive. It's in Taurus and it's making this supportive aspect. And Chiron, as we know, for many of us, we know it as the wounded healer. But I do think that Simon Vorster, Raising Vibrations, mentions it as like it's revitalizing something. But this does point to wounds but also to the possibility of wisdom and healing, because that's also what Chiron is. It's about wisdom and healing emerging from the wound. And Taurus, which is the revitalization. So, and Taurus is connected, when we think about Taurus, it's connected with our self-worth, our value, security, the body, and our relationship with ourselves. So this Chiron will be moving back into the sign of Aries, which it left, and then it will go direct. When it goes direct next year, it will stay there for 8 years. So Chiron has got different questions going on. It's like, what if our value isn't dependent on our role that we've been playing? Because we're all questioning our own roles at the moment, because the way we're earning money or looking at money has changed so much as well over the last years because of the technological changes that have been taking place. And also, if we think, what is our worth? What if our worth isn't dependent on being needed, like to be that, have that freedom? So maybe we're in situations where we're just staying there and being a savior, or being somebody that's just, following the role that we were given that we no longer want. And what if we're doing doesn't depend on us being successful, isn't dependent upon that? Because I think the whole idea of success as one, and that whole glamour thing, is sort of like falling to pieces as well. That people want more of that Taurian life, it's soil, it's beauty, it's natural beauty, it's worth. And our worth isn't dependent upon being admired, recognized, or approved. It's just that sometimes we believe that to be the case when it's not the case. And many of us developed identities that just helped us survive. And I know I developed an identity that I held in place for many, many years because I had to survive. And I think we can all relate to that. Let's look at this. This is a shorter video, but I'm just going to see when this, not hours, let's go a week ahead. I want to see when that Taurus moves back, Taurus Chiron moves back into the sign of Aries. So 1, 2, 3, there you go. It's back in September. So around September, it's going to be back into the sign of, which isn't far, it's a month actually. So today is the 23rd, back on this chart. So often there are identities that have been adaptations where we've had to adapt, and where we've had difficult circumstances and we've learnt to become something in order to receive love, attention, or acceptance, or safety. And that could be from childhood as well, that helped us survive. But surviving and living are not necessarily the same thing. And I think that's where a lot of us get very confused. And we need to sit with ourselves and work out, am I doing this to survive, or am I doing this to live fully? Because we need to get to a point where this life that we've been given, what do we want from it? I certainly know that I want to live it fully. And sometimes circumstances can prevent this taking place. So, and this is where I think this transit here with this South Node, Leo, Trine to Chiron is psychologically interesting, and there's more depth to it. And so the sun crossed over, and the crossing of the South Node, sun crossing the South Node illuminates maybe what we would call a survival identity, an identity that once protected us. So what identity have we created or adapted to in order to protect us? An identity that may still be running automatically. And there can be sadness in that when we realize it's like, oh my God, I've been living this life that isn't mine. An identity that may have become so familiar that we mistake it for who we really are. And Chiron in Taurus, I think, is asking maybe whether there is something deeper beneath the identity. So maybe we could do some work around that, and recognizing our value without performing. Can I recognize my value without performing? Can I recognize my worth without proving myself? And can I recognize my worth without earning it? Like, do I have to earn my my worth on planet Earth? And can I recognize my worth simply because I exist? Because the truth is, the fact that we exist, we have worth. So there you go. This isn't about judgment or blaming ourselves. It's just a curious questions, so we can become more conscious and seeing that even though we may not think we have choices, that we do have choices. And that takes working through to reach the wisdom to understand. And I think that's it for today, because I think we want to move from the identity just to survive. And if anybody understands, that I don't know, that last few hours today, I felt, whoa, I sort of went into a really strange space for a couple of hours. And I'm glad I looked at the chart because it helped me to really understand what I was experiencing right now. And that's how I use astrology, because I see it as a form of psychology to create really good conversations. Anyway, let me know. And I will say, for me, this configuration here is happening in my ninth house. So that would be my beliefs, higher education, spirituality in some ways. It could be lots of different things depending on where it is for you in your own chart, what you experience with that. Catch you later. Thanks for watching.